All right, so someone in the comments recommended, or has been recommending for the last week or two, that I should be making reaction videos. And sometimes I take offense to this because I'm not that kind of channel. I'm not a mainstream channel, but I do want to make a mainstream income. So I think I am going to move over to making these types of reaction videos because I was just watching one. And you guys, well, anyone who's been on the channel for any amount of time knows that I'm a person that's different. I don't have job security. I don't do much outside of sit here in this chair and make YouTube content based around larger channels. My content's actually derived from larger channels. So I will go into a video like what you guys are seeing above, and if I see that it has like a lot of views, I will go ahead and look at it through the transcript. I don't actually physically watch these videos. I take the transcript, I shove it into ChatGPT, tell it to create a script, and then once I have the script, I look over the script, and then I create talking points, and that's how my content is created every single day. Follow the same formula every day. But every once in a while, you guys will throw a wrench into the works and suggest things like this, and it's just not my style. But this particular topic hit me very close to home, and this came. This was a Jack Morgan idea from 3 days ago that got recommended to me in my feed, and he was talking about mental health. And you guys know I love talking about mental health because I'm the poster child for mental health in America right now. Because I am anxious, I am depressed, I do drink, I do everything humanly possible to avoid reality when I get home from work because, let's face it, living to work sucks. But you know what sucks even more? Is not having anyone to spend your time with. Literally, no friends, no family. Being completely alone is one of the hardest things you'll have to experience in your life. I hope none of you that are listening to this video right now will ever end up like these people. Because ending up like this, especially like her, I mean, she's pretty. Like I could understand this guy, but this girl, like I find that very hard to believe um that someone that looks like that is lonely. I mean, but get it in all seriousness, seeing so many of these videos with 184,000 views and knowing what it's like to wake up in the morning alone. I mean, my typical day starts at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning. 5 o'clock, if I'm in a good mood, I'll hit the gym. At 6, come back home, get ready for work, and then go to work, and then come home and probably go to the gym a second time because I like to break up my workouts into heavy lifting and cardio. But the loneliness. I've woken up alone pretty much my entire life. And that moment in which you open your eyes in the morning and there's nothing to look forward to. Your paycheck is so small that it barely gets you from one pay period to the other. You look at your bank account and I like to like tap on the screen. I know it sounds stupid, but there's got to be more in there, right? You tap on the screen, it's like, come on, I need a few more $100 in order to get me to the next pay period, but it's not going to show up. And so you look at what you have, how you're going to budget for that day. You're going to buy lunch, and then I'm going to buy Pro Beer on the drive home. And that's it. Those are my only two daily expenses is something to eat and something to drink. I don't spend my money on anything else because there is none. But that sense, that dread of being alone, especially around the holidays. The holidays are have one of the highest rates of you know what I'm not allowed to talk about here because people reach a breaking point. You get to a point where you're so lonely and depressed and sometimes even anger. I've noticed that last night while I was drinking heavily into the middle of the night, past the middle of the night, into early this morning, that at some point you get angry. You get angry that you have no family. You get angry that you have no friends. You get angry that you have no real job. And that you're taking jobs over and over again throughout your entire life that aren't heading towards home ownership, that aren't going to help you save for retirement. It's just a job. And somehow the management at every single company in America thinks that you should come to work and work like you uh, like like it's your like your life depends on it. Because I say that your life depends on it because it truly does. Maintaining your job is one of the most essential aspects of human life. Unless you're rich, losing your job can mean it's a stepping stone towards becoming homeless. Because if you're like me, and apparently these people too, when you're dealing with loneliness, and on top of that, you're dealing with a job loss, you're going to end up in a bad place. That's where I was last night, in what I call the bad place. Because you drink enough to get you to a place where you don't have to think anymore. But then your brain wakes up in the middle of the night and says, you know what, I don't want to feel this way. And the only way to get rid of that feeling of the sad isolation and loneliness and picturing yourself sitting by yourself on Thanksgiving Day with nowhere to go, no one to talk to, it really gives you that gut punch. The reality that no one cares about you. And maybe no one ever has. Sometimes I sit and I think to myself, would anyone purposely choose to live a life with no direct connection to another human being? To truly just go to work, sit down at work, do your work, keep staring at the clock. I mean, I look at the clock at least 1,000 times a day. I kid you guys not, I'm constantly looking at the clock because I want the workday to end. If there's anything that makes you even more miserable than being alone and it's work, you need to get out of there. Because there's a certain point, like I've been at burnout with work, from day one. But I've been burnt out on life since I can remember. There's never anything to look forward to doing. Weekends pass, and sometimes you don't talk to anyone. The occasional conversation you have with a stranger at the gym or at a cash register. But for the most part, we don't talk to each other anymore. And it's not a COVID thing. It's just at some point, the larger our communities are, the less likely we are to interact with other people. Like I just got back from Walmart. I had to go there to buy body soap and mouthwash. I walked through the store and I passed 100, maybe 200 people in a super Walmart. I made no eye contact. No one attempted to make eye contact with me. No, not a single word was spoken. I used a self checkout and it reinforced that notion that so many of us have, that we're deeply alone in a society that thrives on mental health problems. If mental health was truly seen as the problem that it is, it would have been addressed by now. Someone would have said something about mental health. But we choose to see people who are struggling as losers. If you don't have any family, if you don't have any friends, and you're not financially successful, you're invisible to society. Because who wants to be associated with that? No one. Dealing with your own loneliness causes mental problems on a scale that has turned America into a place in the world where we don't lift an eyebrow after one of those school events, where a person breaks down to the point where they lose it completely and they commit an atrocity just because of mental health. If you don't think that mental health is a serious problem, a serious, disgusting societal problem. Look at what happens when mental health finally breaks down all the way. Atrocities in our society. And a lot of it has to do with the disconnect. Feeling completely alone while walking through a world that doesn't acknowledge us, that we're invisible to the world, that we don't matter because we don't have any friends, because we don't have a family. Because let's say you've been an orphan your whole life, like I have. I've been an orphan since I was in my early teens. And I think that once you develop that personality of severe isolation, it just goes down and down and down, and you begin to just cope with your isolation and sadness in some way that's not healthy. A lot of us can't stand being around other people. I can't stand being around other people who are happy. I think it's phony. Like yesterday, I couldn't stand it. Like someone continually telling me how all I have to do is change my attitude and suddenly everything will get better. When the reality is this person's been struggling with unemployment for nearly half a year, quarter year, half a year, I don't know how long. But somehow they've convinced themselves that everything's going to be all right as long as they maintain a positive attitude. But this whole idea of not being connected to the world in any conceivable way, it hurts society. And it will continue to hurt society because what are we supposed to do? It's not like I can just walk out of this room and go find my long lost family that has lots of money and connections and find all my friends that are just waiting outside to meet you, right? I don't know my neighbors. I can hear them sometimes through the walls, but I don't know them. They're just other people in the world. And that's the way our society functions. I think it has a lot to do with the dysfunction of our entire world. Is the isolation, depression, and the fact that people can't cope with it anymore.